Alright, so today we're going to do brake fluid flush on a 2015 Ford Transit. You don't need too much, just need your .4 brake fluid, a couple cans, container to put the used brake fluid into, a little bit of brake grease, I'll show you why we use that, some gloves. I like to use a little bleeder kit. This is like 10 bucks at AutoZone. You can use a little DIY version. You just take a Gatorade bottle, drill a hole and put a tube through it. This just is all set to go and has a little one-way check valve in the top so it doesn't let fluid go back in after you let the brake off, so I like this. And then you're going to need either a 10 millimeter or a 3/8 inch socket and box end wrench, so you're able to put this over the bleeder, then the tube, and open and close it while you pressurize. Alright. Well, another tool you're going to want is either a turkey baster to be able to pull it out, or something that I've made and seems to work really nice is just a larger syringe with a piece of tubing on it and that little hose clamp to make sure it doesn't fall out. This is able to get real deep into any little crevice. But alright, so to start, just want to give this a quick wipe with a paper towel, make sure there's no debris that's going to fall in once you take the cap off. Go ahead and screw the cap all the way out. Get your container you're going to put the used fluid into nearby. Start pulling out the old fluid. So the fluid I'm taking out doesn't look too bad, but you can definitely see it's darker when we go to put the new stuff in. The new stuff's almost clear, a very pale yellow. This is a little bit dark. We have 180,000 miles on this van right now. So it's only about 5 years old, but we put a lot of mileage on it, so it's just a good time to do it. So now we got most of that we cared about, not a whole, too much. That's all about that holds in your reservoir. And so now we can put our new fluid in and start the bleeding procedure. Alright, so now you're going to take your new fluid and just go ahead and top it up. And as you can see, that new fluid's almost clear. So while the old fluid doesn't look too bad, this stuff is definitely ready for a fluid change. So as you can see, it's kind of hard since the fluid's clear. But you can see it's up at the level again now. Give it a little shake. So the max line is here on the neck, as you can see there. So once the fluid gets there, we can start the bleeding and the pumping procedure. All right, so between each pump and then refill, you're going to want to put the cap back on. Otherwise, since you're pressurizing the system, it's going to shoot out the top. So make sure you put the cap back on before you go back to the bottom of the car. All right, now to start the bleeding procedure, you go to the wheel that's farthest from the reservoir. So in this case, it's going to be the passenger rear tire as the first caliper you're going to bleed. It's a little hard to show you where the nipple is that you bleed from, so I'll just bring you up and back. But you see that metal piece right here? So that's the bleeder nipple. So you don't need to jack the van up or anything like that. It's just a little hard to get on camera because there's all this bracketry and your parking brake and everything in the way. But it's a pretty clear shot. You're going to take a little rubber dust cap box end wrench around the end of that. You're going to twist counterclockwise, lefty loosey to open it, and it'll let fluid go through, and you're going to push on the brake slowly in and then let it come out slowly, and the fluid will just push out through that nipple. And it's going to take the longest on this first one because it's coming all the way from the reservoir through the whole car, brake lines, to the caliper. So you're going to be pumping for a while until you see the fluid turn clear. And this bleeder kit is a little different than I thought it was, the other style that I was used to. So this you actually, you set up like normal, but instead of putting the tube around the bleeder nipple, it has this little adapter that is tapered, and you push it into the opening. And I wasn't sure if that was going to work, so that's why I did it off camera first, and it worked really well. I got almost no bubbles, so that means it wasn't leaking around here, and the system pushed out the fluid just fine. So now I'll show you how to do this start to finish. And then so you put the container on the leaf spring there, run the tubing up and over to make sure that any air bubbles will go how they want is up into the air. And then this, like before, you're gonna put into the hole, and it seals up on there because it's tapered. Now you can see we run that over and into the bleeder nipple itself. You can see there, and you just kind of push it into the hole, and it seals up really nice with the taper on it. And it worked fine on the passenger side, so we'll go ahead and repeat this process. So to start off, to make sure your bleeder nipple opens nicely, I like to use the socket, like I showed you guys with the 10 on it. So go ahead and just fit that over the top, just to make sure you have good contact and don't have to worry about possibly stripping it out. So once that's on there nice, go ahead and break it loose like that. That's good. And then just tighten it back up. This is when you put your wrench, the box end around the nut. Be able to hold it. Insert your piece. And then go ahead and have whoever's with you push. So go ahead and push it. Pressure, honey. And you're going to open it. Right. Go ahead and keep going. You see the fluid coming in there now. So just have them push for about 5 seconds in, nice and slow, and then 5 seconds out, nice and slow. Now you can see the fluid coming out. It's pretty yellow and gross. And I'll show you the after product once we're all done. See our kit, and with the other hand just hold the tube up in the air. I'm using one hand on the camera right now, but just use one hand like that to keep the hose up high. Make sure all the air comes out the right direction. So once the tube starts getting full, have them keep the pedal depressed all the way to the floor. While the tube's still in, you're gonna go to your ratchet or your wrench, re-tighten it up so it doesn't let any air in. Then you can go ahead and let them release. So go ahead and let it go. Okay. And there you go. So now let's use a little piece of paper towel. Grab the tip out. Okay. And then you're going to go empty this into your main jug like you did with the stuff you pulled out of the reservoir. And you're just going to repeat until the fluid goes clear. And I'll show you the end result. Alright, about every 3 times that you fill up that bleeder container, you're going to come up to the front and re-top off your fluid. Alright, so now we're going to do the front calipers. They're pretty much the same as the rear. The nipples, and a lot easier to see point here. So same process. The spot I like to mount the reservoir on the front is just on your strut here, right next to where the pinch bolt is. It's a nice, pretty flat spot, and it's above your bleeder nipple. Now to finish up your job, let's make sure to do a final top up of your fluid. You should be all done with your brake flush. All you gotta do there, make sure the fluid line that you can see is coming up to the max fill line. You can see I overfilled it just a touch, so I'll take a little bit out and be all good to go.